Welcome to another edition of Bryant and Baden. We are covering in depth the Michelle Troconis case. She is on trial for the murder of, or conspiring to murder, Jennifer Dulos. That is the wife of her former lover, Photos Dulos, who offed himself after he was charged with her murder. But Michelle Troconis on trial and followed up by somebody named Kent Mawhinney in the future. We're on it. But Michael Bryant, you were actually in court today. I was listening to some of the testimony today. I have my thoughts, but I really want to get your thoughts about what's happening in that courtroom.
A lot of weirdness. We've talked about the interesting style of the judge. I don't think we can ignore that because he's really become a centerpiece. And he takes his time and he talks really slowly and very deliberately. And I don't know that he's even 50-50 on my interpretation of his decisions. But the big one now hanging over this proceeding is a contempt of court proceeding against Michelle Troconis to be taken up by the court after the defense rests. We know they started today.
Right.
And that'll continue for a few days. You know, who knows how long it's really going to last. Mr. Schoenhorn told me 3 to 4 days of witnesses. But then they're going to say, okay, hold it, jury. Hold it. We got to have a little proceeding outside your presence. And I don't know if the judge is going to dismiss them for a day. Michelle Troconis is getting new counsel just for the contempt of court hearing. I've never heard anything like this.
Yeah, amazing, because it happened. Amazing. As a matter of fact, I was listening when I heard yesterday that they're going to do a quash motion, a protective order, because Photos Dulos' attorney is coming in this morning. He's going to take a break after the defense presents their case, which could take 3 or 4 days, maybe into next week, because they have experts.
Yeah.
You know how experts go.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them. Sorry, I have co-counsel with me for just a second.
Co-counsel, the best co-counsel ever. They're very important. They're very important in cases where bodies have never been discovered. A couple of cases comes to mind. Out in Washington, D.C., the Chandra Levy, the congressional intern who was never found except by a dog. And then there was Scott Peterson's wife and baby, Lacey and Connor, who were found by a dog, people walking dogs. So your co-counsel is probably more important in criminal cases than sometimes police work finding bodies.
He's no cadaver dog, but he will find any scrap of food that happens to be laying around. So that can be helpful.
Well, he's also beautiful. And,
okay,
I understand.
I'm trying to work. I'm trying to work.
No, we are working. We are working. But I'm worried about the jury, because if they were told March 1st, anything could happen here if they have to wait.
We're so lucky at this point.
Hearing.
There's 2 alts left, 6 in the box plus 2 alternates, and it's been that way for 2 weeks now. Remember, they were dropping like flies in the first few weeks of this trial. Here's what I think is interesting. I picked this up during one of the police interviews. I'm just random thoughts bouncing around my head. One of the detectives asked Michelle Troconis, well, what do you think, 12 people are going to think of that story that you're telling? What do you think those 12 people are going, this dude doesn't even know it's a 6-person panel in the jury? That seems fundamental if you're working with the prosecution. Then I thought, wouldn't it be funny if Michelle Troconis said, you mean 6 people, right? But then I thought, for a heartbeat, it would be funny for her. And then she'd be thinking, well, why do I know that much about the process? And what am I anticipating here that I already know there are only going to be 6 people in the box? But you're right. It's a concern. And the judge told this panel, March 1 is like the drop dead longest it could possibly take. And now we're pushing that date.
Yeah. But listening to the testimony was really interesting. A couple of things stood out to me listening to the testimony, despite from that the jury is listening to all the objections and why they're ruled one way or another way, sometimes wrong, especially on hearsay. But that's another story. But the whole idea of whether or not she made admissions in her 3rd interview, there was a question in the 2nd interview of whether or not when Photos Dulos gave her a cloth to throw away, did she smell coffee on it? Because she's saying that he told her it was coffee to clean up. And she said, no, she didn't smell coffee. But really what happened, and I think you have to be in the court when you see this.
Did you see spilled coffee?
No, I didn't see that.
Did you see a coffee cup?
No, because I didn't look inside the car.
Did the paper towel smell like coffee?
No, I didn't smell it.
Well, but still, you're holding that coffee stinks.
But I hold the paper towel, but I didn't smell it. I didn't see that.
But even still, you didn't smell coffee.
No.
It was like, no, No, because she was mimicking what the police did, lifting up a towel. No, I didn't smell it. Like, no, I didn't lift it to my nose to smell it. And, when I was a young attorney clerking for the appellate division, head appellate judge in New Jersey for my panel, there was an argument over a brief by the Supreme Court chambers, which was next door, where somebody supposedly admitted to their headlights being out. Let me set this up to you. Officer stops the car. Do you know your headlights or your taillights are out? And the person says, they were? Not they were, which is an admission, but they were like, no, I didn't know that. So, you have to be there and you have to listen and you just can't take the words sometimes. You have to take the effects. So I thought that was interesting. Also the bicycle, Michael, what's that about?
I wish I knew because I know that there's supposedly video of Fotis Dulos riding the bicycle toward Jennifer Dulos' house.
Or somebody.
Obviously, there's some theory that in order to, they had so many vehicles going around, in order to limit the number of vehicles left in certain places, the bike was going to fill one of those legs and easier to transport, easier to get rid of. Of course, maybe they did because it's gone. Maybe you find the bike, you find the body. I don't know. But there's apparently a piece of tape.
Except there's a label, right?
Well, there's a label, piece of tape found. Remember, I was up on Albany Avenue going through the trash. I mean, in that area where they went through the trash, they pulled those bags out. One of the pieces of tape around one of the bags has the logo or the slogan for this French-made bike on the tape, like it had been used for one thing and then reused for another. I don't know what that means in the big picture. I can't wait to hear in closings how they bring that all into focus because I'm very unclear about what that really means ultimately.
Well, let's assuming they're bringing into focus as Fotis Dulos. What I'm still concerned about, Michael, and you tell me because you've been in the courtroom, and since I'm preaching about being in the courtroom being so important, not just watching it on TV, on live feeds, is what evidence have they actually connected the actual conspiracy to commit murder to Michelle Troconis, aside from the statements from the lover of somebody who probably hates the wife as much as he did in expressing that hate in the divorce because, she feels Jennifer wasn't allowing him to see his kids.
Here's what I think's happening. Here's what I think the prosecution is banking on. First of all three of those interviews, June 2nd, June 6th, August 13th, all those interviews with Michelle Troconis that had all these contradictions in it, if you believe the prosecution, and we're going to see the defense attack that. They were done when Fotis Dulos was alive. She was an ally of the cops. In their minds, they're going to get her to help them turn on Fotis. That I know that was the plan. Well, he screwed that up when he killed himself. Now they're stuck with her and Mawene, and now these interviews don't really have the weight and don't lead to what they had hoped it would lead to. And they've got to hope that the jury looks at those interviews, sees the contradictions, believes that she is lying to cover up her involvement in the planning and carrying out of the murder. Man, I think that's a heavy lift. I just don't see it.
Yeah, that really is interesting. And you brought up, as our viewers know, Ken Mawene was a no-show. Ken Mawene, who you went to his gun club where he supposedly may have dug a grave for who? We don't know. Any more light on that?
Something.
Any more scuttlebutt?
That's what we know for sure. Somebody dug something. Because that wasn't a man and Mother Nature's artwork. Somebody dug something. Obviously, when he goes to trial, we're going to learn a whole lot more about that. It won't be from him on the stand. I'd be shocked if he takes the stand in his own trial. But that probably explains why he didn't take the stand here. If he's just going to take the fifth, what good is it?
Well, we know that Michelle Troconis didn't dig that grave at his gun club. That's what we do know.
I guess.
So it's very
if there were some if there were some evidence of that, then you might have me a little bit. Then you might have my interest in finding her.
Yeah, and I still say, we have to. The focus should be on finding her. I'm sure that wherever that bicycle is, if that bicycle is part of it, she's there. There's some discussion about 3 reservoirs being near the 80 Mountain Spring Road home, where I guess they then sold it. That was part of the group of homes that had to be sold, if I understand correctly. And was sold afterwards. So whatever the result is of this trial, we really should have our focus. The cops should have their focus is on finding Jennifer Dulos' body for the family.